someone who is entrepreneurial has a foundational mindset, a founder's mindset. And what does that mean? Right? You take ownership for success or failures, you go above and beyond, right? Above and beyond means that you are building systems, you are improving processes, you are improving culture. You are not necessarily just contributing as an implementer. And the question was, do I go and work for a bigger organization, right? The big names, JP Morgan. And a few people have asked me, okay, you're in the US, why are you not working in the big banks? The kind of the names, JP Morgan, this and that, and or leverage the experience you have from Kuramo to go and work in a global private equity firm, which is not a bad career path in and of itself, not bad. But I would say that the work I was doing, or I am, and I'm still doing, right? I find it is very impactful. The fact that you can see that you can advise on a transaction from at times as early as ideation stage, and you see it come to life. But more importantly, you're sitting in the US, but your skills, your knowledge, it's you're seeing the direct impact on your
Mm,
people,
mm,
right?
mm.
On your, I mean, it just has
A ring to it, like it's
there's
kind
just
of
there's just
fulfilling.
meaning. It's
Yeah.
fulfilling. It's and I don't think that I have a job that a lot of people have, because how many people have, I mean, until post COVID, where
Mm,
you can work remotely, global roles and
mm,
what have you, you're sitting anywhere in the world and you're still
mm,
doing your work. And I mean, that was
mm,
that was not common, right?
mm,
Where you had a job that hired you as
mm,
an African, right? Because
mm,
of the skills you have as an African, but
mm,
you're sitting in another continent and you are able to. And by the way, I'm also New York board as
mm,
well, right?
mm,
So the fact that I have a bar license in New York,
mm,
I'm so it was just so that was something I didn't want to lose.
mm, mm,
At the same time, I knew that I had built um, a level of credibility,
mm,
loyalty, that,
mm,
and the question was, am I going, I had a baby,
mm,
am I going to go and start grinding again? At what
mm,
age,
mm,
right? To prove myself.
mm,
I had gotten to the point where I was no longer, if I say, okay, I had my team,
mm.
I wasn't ready to go and prove myself as a black girl that doesn't have an American
Career person,
accent
yeah.
in a white
And people don't know how big a factor that is.
dominated
But go on.
environment, right?
Mm,
Unfortunately, that is the reality at times. So
yeah.
I knew that reality, and I said
Mm,
to myself that I don't think that was the way to go.
mm,
So in 2024, I approached our CEO and the partner that I work with directly, which is our COO. And I said, this thing that you've always talked about, right? Institutionalizing that guidance, that mentorship, that
mm.
access, right? I think I'm ready. I want to do it, right?
But you hold on for 1 second before you get into that, right? Because we really need to spend time listening to that pivot, right? And how you navigated that transition. But before you get into that, I'm quite conscious of the fact that there may be one, two, three, four people, right, on our timeline that will listen to this interview and they are at an inflection point. from a funding standpoint, right? They want to they have these ideas they've been nursing, they have this thing they've been building, and they feel like, oh, I need funding. Funding is the only thing holding me back and all of that, right? I'm just wondering, today we have a funder in the house, so to say, right? Someone who funds or who knows the ecosystem like the back of her hand, right? um if you from a profiling standpoint, right, is there a like a ceiling or a barrier in terms of to entry in the kind of people, in the kind of businesses that you work with, right? When you look at the business and you see the potential, what determines, how do you sort that out? I guess that's a roundabout way of me asking that. Is there a particular criteria you look at, right, in deciding which business to fund and which not to fund, right, back in the day? And then, so that maybe, who knows, one or two people that may want to bring business to you can reach out and say, okay, I have this thing and it's big enough, I think we can do something together. Does that make sense? And then after that, we'll get into that, that pivot.
Yes. So let me
Okay.
let me walk you through the typical funding stages for an
Mm,
entrepreneur, right? So I've been saying private equity, venture capital, right? Most times that's really private equity is really for growth stage companies, not we are not at ideation. At ideation stage, you are probably doing your seed, yeah. After your ideation, and maybe you've validated it. So the first funding stage or
mm,
capital raising stage
mm.
is friends and family round.
Yeah.
Because even an angel investor like myself, if you've not been able to raise money, like, and I'm talking as an angel investor, if you were just to approach me, not an institutional investor, if your idea has not been validated, right? If you've not been able to raise money within your closed circle, why should I give you money? Either, and it could be close circle, could even be a mentor, a why should I give you money, right? I want to see that you have put in your money, right? Friends and family have put in their money. What have you done with that money, right? And then you now need another capital, right, to scale, or at least to validate the vision better. So that's stage two. So at stage two, you might be reaching out to an angel investor network. There are several. There is ABAN, African Business, they number, right? If you're able to get money from that group, right? Again, and you are able to use to scale, right? That's also good. Then stage three is you could then start reaching out to venture capitals, right? That's how Silicon Valley got popular and what have you, right? You go for pitches, you win, you start accessing institutional capital. But these are institutional investors that, so at that point you are not yet um you're still an early stage business. Um, your idea has been validated and proven. You have a customer base already. Maybe you need more infrastructure in order to scale, but your business is too small for a private equity firm like the people I advise deal with, because some write checks of $5 million minimum, right? You can then go to venture capital, VC, that's what it's called. Depending on your thesis and their funding thesis, and depending on their needs, some write checks of 100K, 200K, some 500K, depending on the stage of the business, right? When you've now received capital from those guys, you've also scaled. You may or may not need to come to us, right? But it is at that stage you're now coming to the PE firms who are writing checks of 5 million, 2 million, 3 million. But in a nutshell, right, that is how to approach um, capital raising.
And that's super helpful, right? Especially to a lot of entrepreneurs who are going to see this, right? It's not just about you know, conceiving ideas and then start looking for people who can, put money into that. I think, to your point, is first of all about, okay, you've conceived that ideas and you've validated it to an extent, and then to what extent, how much of skin have you put into this game, right? How much of your skin is involved, your family, friends, and as somebody said it on adventures in the past, family, friends, and fools, right? How much of that have you been able to kind of bring together, right? And to what extent have you used that? Have you judiciously kind of, use that resource? Then you can then begin to think of, like venture capital and all of that. I think that, putting it like that, I think it's kind of makes it kind of clearer, right? My challenge and question to you would be that, do people beyond the family, friends, and fools, right? Do businesses really go through that, like venture, from venture capitals to private equity and on and on and on like that? Or there are possibilities of, even going faster because you've been able to do a whole lot, or depending on the size of what you are able to raise from family, friends, and fools. Do you get what I mean?
No, that's a great question. Because you're right, you don't have to go through that traditional route, especially if you are building something very big. And it also depends on who is the person that is running the business, right? We've funded a business where the CEO of a big company, a listed company, left to go and set up the same thing that he was doing, right? He had built that business that he was leading. He had built that business successfully. He knows the markets in and out, right? He has the industry network, right? Put in his money, he started something. So you can do that. But in order for you to cross that or um avoid the steps, right? You should have a level of industry credibility. You should have deep market networks. And that's why when young people come to me, right, to ask, to say, oh, do I need some level of experience before I go and settle? Or can I, if I know that business, this is what I want to do, can I just finish as a graduate, work for a year, work for 2 years, and then just go and set up? No, there's no point wasting my time with an employer. I don't believe in that story. I don't
Mm.
believe in that um in that
In that approach.
trajectory, right?
Yeah.
Because it can work for some if you are from money,
Mm.
whether big, whether old or new money,
Yeah.
right? And you have a network that you can access through your family. But if you don't have that, and you want to work for 2 3 years, of course, subject to the kind of business that you are doing. But if you're going to kind of need institutional capital in order to scale, right? Um, Industry credibility, even your skills, your knowledge, your experience is part of what people consider to give you money. Can you run a business? Have you led a team? How do we know that this? So those are some of the considerations to bear in mind.
I mean, Muji, thanks a lot for sharing that. That and I really hope and wish someone will pick up all these things, right, and really get a lot of value from it. Because I guess the biggest mistake that young career people make, especially people who want to start a business, right? Uh, who have a vision of starting a business and they feel like, okay, do I really need to work? I guess the mistake that they make most of the time is in thinking that people work basically to earn, right? To earn a living, to get. One of the things I've learned over the years is when you work anywhere, right? There are three things you're working for. And to be honest, money is at the bottom of the ladder. Money is important. Don't get me wrong, right? We have families and kids to feed and society to impact. Money is important, but money is at the bottom. I think what comes first are the experiences you earn on one hand, and number two, the people you connect with, the network you build, and then after that, money. So even if the money is very good, and you're not learning, or you're not building a solid network of friends and colleagues, I think to a large extent, I think it's a waste. But this is about you, not me. Um, let's come back to you. So you are saying that, yeah, you had that moment again, and you're like, okay, I think I need a transition. So you went to your partner. How did that conversation go?
It was welcome, very very welcome, right? It was received very well because remember I said that it's a vision that our founding partner at Kuramo always had, right? He's an entrepreneur. He's built a lot of entrepreneurs. He's made CEOs of companies, right? So hearing that I wanted to make the pivots, it was received with joy, and I received their blessings fully. And that brings me to the industry credibility, building your network, and what have you, right? So I received their blessings. What it meant was that even though we were transitioning, and he then said, okay, so the lead partner, who is a person I was working directly with, said, look, it makes sense for you to partner with then our finance manager at Koramo Capital because the suite of services there you can offer complementary services. It helps scalability and it just makes the service offering more compelling. And so I spoke to him about it and he said, sure, why not? And we've worked together anyway. So you can also see that even getting your team, right? Because chemistry is very, very important, right? And that's why, just to add to what you were saying about you are not just earning money, but you're earning experience, your network. Network does is not limited to customers. It's also that's also where you find business partners. That's where you also find team members to hire, right? If I had started on my own day one, right, getting a business partner, getting a team. So what it meant was that my previous employer then outsourced or spun off its back office function because that was a product we wanted to sell. And in order for that for the story and the thesis to be compelling, right, we
Mm.
needed to show that a
Proof of
big
concept that this is working.
what other backing do you need?
Mm.
So that is the concept. You can then go to the market to say, this is this, right? So I would
And,
still say I'm fractional
mm,
GC, General Counsel
mm,
of Ramo,
mm.
but I'm also fractional GC to,
A couple of other
yeah, we're still new.
outfits.
Or,
Mm,
and you know the interesting thing, we incorporated, you know, the timeline between the time we incorporate and eventually when you actually, we incorporated the company in December 2024.
mm,
And in less than 6 months, we actually got to tell you that because we knew the market,
mm,
right? We knew that there was a need. We could see
mm.
we're investors, so
Yeah.
we could see the problem firsthand,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And another a major investor, Mastercard Foundation, they
mm,
manage they have billions of dollars
mm,
that they
mm,
are managing.
mm,
They heard about it and they were like, "Oh, fantastic! We have this Africa Mastercard Africa Growth Fund. We've
mm,
had this whereby we're supporting first time managers,
mm,
right? First time female fund managers. They heard about it that okay, we they need the support,
mm.
right? These first time female fund managers. This is what this is because they are also an investor. Investors know what the problem is.
Yeah.
And so in less than 6 months of actually setting up, we got that
Wow.
business
Mm,
to
wow.
to help to support fund managers,
Mm.
and again, what other proof of concept do you need again that what you are actually that the problem you are actually solving for, it's a real one,
Mm.
it exists.
Mm.
And again, that's also a business that maybe I wouldn't have. I mean,
Mm.
how do you set up a company and in 6 months, right? Mastercard Foundation, contracting through media, for instance, you've
Mm.
gotten. So that has been the journey,
Mm.
right? So ability to scale as a business, ability
Mm.
to expand your market access,
Yeah.
it's easier,
Hmm.
right? Obviously, I still we still have to do the work as an entrepreneur.
Yes, you still have to do the work, right? The door can be open for you, but you have to walk through it, right? And you have to find a way to keep it open. And you don't do that by just speaking great English. You do that by delivering value, such that they continue to to bring you back and bring you back. Right? And for me, I'm personally excited to to hear all that you've been able to build, right? And how things kind of line up for you. But I'm a bit curious about. So I want to get into the nitty gritty of what you currently do now in terms of the the services you offer and all of that, and let's get into the details of scale of operations. And thankfully you've mentioned Mastercard Foundation and all of that. But before we do that, I just want to I want to double click a little bit into what your relationship and what your you know you know your relationship first with your partner and with the founder and the CEO was like, and is still like. What level of confidence were you able to build to that point that they felt like they felt like there is an opportunity there and you're the one for it? It could have been, yeah, there is an opportunity there, but not you, right? We've not seen enough to. Do you get what I mean? But they were like, there is an opportunity and go for it, right? Because it's not just about. I don't think it's just about finding someone to take something off or to bring it to life, right? It's about finding the right person, right? Because the thing, as a matter of fact, the woo is even more important than the thing itself. Do you get what I mean? If you don't get the woo right, the thing will be frustrated. It's just a matter of time, right? So w- how did you, because I think a lot of people would get value from this, especially people who are working somewhere and working for people before thinking of going out to start something. How did you get to that point where you're able to generate so much confidence, right? You're able to build so much credibility to the point that you can say you're the right person for this. We'll give you all of the backing. Do you get what I mean? What are those things that you can share with our viewers? Possibly those who are still working somewhere or still grinding a 9 to 5 here and there, and they wants to do, what can you share with them from the way you've related and you've worked and you've done the things that you've done that they can take away?
Okay, I would say that in a nutshell, you're saying how, as an employee, how can you demonstrate entrepreneurial skills such that the owners of the business, they can identify you as a potential partner in their business, right? What can differentiate you, or what are the differentiating factors, right, from someone who is just a regular employee, grow, manage, but you can be noticed by the owners of the business as someone who can potentially be a part owner. Because I think that that's what it is, right? Because what it means is that I could have been a partner and an equity partner in the business. There are a number of things I would say. I would say that first and foremost, an employee contributes to outcome, whereas a leader or someone or an employee, someone who is entrepreneurial, has a foundational mindset, a founder's mindset. And what does that mean, right? You take ownership for success or failures, you go above and beyond, right? Above and beyond means that You are building systems, you are improving processes, you are improving culture. You are not necessarily just contributing as an implementer, right? Um, you you're strategic, right, in your approach, and you can say that I could also be strategic in my approach, and all I just want to be is I just want to be I just want to rise to the pinnacle of my career, retired, and all of that. um I think it will be the main differentiator will be an ownership and execution mindset, right? I believe owners of a business can see firsthand who thinks someone who approaches a problem from an owner perspective or someone who appreciates a problem from an execution perspective. An employee would execute on something from an how do we build, right? And then leave it to say, okay, XYZ. An entrepreneur goes, I'm trying, I don't want to personalize it because I guess the question you asked me, they are best placed to answer what it is that is different from why did they choose to support me, right? But I'm just trying to say, okay, what are some of the skills or things that I must have exhibited or that anyone can exhibit to just make that person that's just an owner. You just need to show that you own the business. There are times when I think I've seen someone write about me in the organization and they've said that I'm very loyal, that my loyalty level, right? Again, whatever it is they've seen, I don't know. But there are times when I've prayed for the success of as an employee, right? And I remember this was years ago. I remember talking to a colleague and I was like, I would have to pray about it. And the person looked at me like, hey, those of you that not like as though it was something like I'm not an owner in the business. What's my if he fails, fine. If he doesn't, right? And that's why I said it earlier that when you take a business as though it's yours, the stars line up for you somehow.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the podcast. We are super thankful for you taking that time and investing the time to learn. We hope that you find the story inspiring and beyond that, that you've been able to articulate one or two things that you want to do differently in your own entrepreneurial journey. May I encourage you to please like, subscribe, comment, and please share the word within your own circle of influence, especially within those that you think are on the same entrepreneurial journey with you. May I also encourage you to please, beyond subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media platforms. That means a lot to us, and we can see that that helps us to track that we're making some progress and so making some impact. Thanks a lot once again for taking the time to watch, and please see you on the next episode.